Thank you, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be moderating this first session entitled Integrating Technology in Forest Management. As Pete mentioned, my name is Lana Narain with the School of Forestry and Wildlife Sciences at Auburn University, and I'm glad to be introducing Clarence Neese with Orbis. Clarence acquired a master's degree in forestry from West Virginia University. Prior to this, he received his Bachelor of Science degree in Resource Management with a minor in GIS and remote sensing from George Mason University. Clarence is also a licensed and North Carolina land surveyor. As Vice President of Orbis, Clarence leads business development, marketing, and assists with overall operations for the organization. It's my pleasure to welcome Clarence.
All right, thank you so much. I'm not going to stand there. It's going to kill me if I try to. So, good morning, everybody. And of course, if you haven't noticed, there are some seats down front. I know the foresters and the technical people in here don't want to sit in the front. They always sit in the back. I think the back's completely full now. So, good morning. First, I want to say thank you to Pete. I appreciate the invitation to come to the conference. Appreciate the last almost 2 decades of SO4 conference. Unbelievable if you guys think about it. All the topics we've talked about and all the things we've discussed. And Pete's done a fabulous job of spearheading that for many, many years. And so thank you so much. I'm here this morning, of course, to talk about where we are now. So I'm Clarence Neese, as she said, Vice President of Orbis Incorporated. For those of you who don't know, Orbis, we are a technology firm based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And back in 2000, we recognized that our industry needed a technical firm that focused solely on technology. So that's why we created Orbis. And for the last 22 years, Orbis has provided or been tackling services from GIS services to online applications, custom applications, recreational licensing, acquisition management, asset management for clients as well. So for the last 22 years, we've been tackling a lot of stuff. And again, I try to memorize this, so hang in there with me, guys. So again, I was invited here to talk today to give a perspective of where we are now or where we're heading. And of course, I think in order to do that, I thought it would be a little bit of fun, of course, to look at the past conferences. So let's look back. In order to go forward, we need to look back and see where we've been, and so I thought that would be exciting for sure. So I wanted to start with this conference, though. So, of course, this is the International Symposium of Spatial Accuracy and Natural Resource Databases. And I'm not sure if databases is one word anymore or not. I don't know. I was kind of like, they talk about data and then bases of data. Or what were they talking about in 1994 in Williamsburg, Virginia? So first question for the audience, because I'll make you guys at least raise your hands at least for me. Who here was born before 1976? And of course, you know, I expected to be like 2 people in the room. I want to tell you that. So, of course, if you were born before 1976, of course, that would have made you about 18 years old in 1994 is what it would have made you. And that would have been the only way possible, unless you're with your dad or mom, to attend this conference. And of course, I didn't attend this conference. Not going to lie. I was born in 71. I'm 50 years old, and I didn't attend this conference. However, my business partner, Russell Combs, did. He was there. Yeah, and he was there, of course. And of course, he went to these talks and looked at all this stuff. And it was, and again, he said it was a great conference. And believe it or not, this book is in my office. So that's kind of stuff that blows me away. Now, I pulled that book out and I looked at the table of contents. And boy, I loved it. And again, I've been around for a little while, so I knew who Jim Smith was. We talked about error and GIS. Jim Smith worked for Canal Forest Resources, left Canal, go to Champion Paper, from Champion to International Paper to the Nature Conservancy. Jim was a pioneer of GIS in our industry for sure. And of course, if you look down a little bit further, at the very bottom there, I cut it off a little bit, but Steve Prisley. I don't know who those of you knew Steve Prisley worked for West Baco. Of course, went on in his career to work for Virginia Tech. And then, of course, he's working now somewhere in Virginia for NGO, something I can't remember. So that's right, the casting now. Thank you, Paul. So, John, but the best one on the screen, though, was Brent Kiefer. So Brent Kiefer at this time was the GIS manager at Rayonier. And then from Rayonier, of course, he left Rayonier to go work for Hancock Timber Resources Group, or Hancock. I'll keep it simple in my life. It's Hancock, and had a great career at Hancock and became the president of the largest TIMO in our industry. And now Brent of course, currently works as the CEO of American Forest Management, again, the largest, field consultant we have. So here's a gentleman that was back here years ago. This is before SOFOR. Back years ago, talking about error in GIS and how business and how data and information could change our industry. Of course, before he was a bulldog and before he was running this conference, our very own Pete was there. Now, I don't know if this is a picture of you back in 1994 or not. Is it close? I thought the hair might be a little longer. I wasn't quite sure. But when I saw that, I almost fell on the floor, guys. I almost read the article. I didn't. I'm not going to lie. But again, it was about quantifying error and, like great stuff. And I was excited to see it, so for sure. So in 1996, though, and I'm going to say this, Pete, correct me if I'm wrong, this was the first ever SOFOR? Okay. All right. I didn't attend again. But again, I opened this up and looked at this, and Pete actually scanned this for me and sent it to me. So thank you, Pete. But this was the start of the SOFOR conference. And if you go through the list, I didn't go through it all. Bruce Carroll, everybody else, all these guys that were here, great guys were here. Again, I pointed out a couple of exciting things. Again, there's Brent Kiefer, and then there's Doug Long. Anybody in this room know who Doug Long is? Yeah? Okay, good. Good. Doug Long is now currently the Senior Vice President of Forest Resources at Rayonier, like top 5 at Rayonier. So again, here's a gentleman that was started out with Brent and talking about integrations, spatial harvesting, integrating data into our industry. So, and then again, if you go a little bit further, on the next page, exactly, there's Steve Prisley again. But then there's Lori Erickson. Lori Erickson worked for Canal Forest Resources. And Lori Erickson was talking about cartography and forest management. And there's a picture of Lori over here. And of course, that's her SPARS station. You guys remember SPARS stations and Unix boxes? Because I had one, I'm not going to lie. And I loved them, and I hate to see them go, but they're gone now. So, but what's the two things that are great about Lori? Number one, I have her presentation in our office. That's her presentation from 1996. And she stood up here like I'm standing here today and used an overhead projector, I'm going to guess, Pete. And I'm sure Pete had backup, so he had a light bulb or two probably in his pocket. But the reality of the situation was that Lori stood here years ago and did a presentation about cartography and forestry, forest management. And not only did she do, I think it's awesome because, again, that's showing how to better present our data out to the world, how to get our information out to the world is what she was doing. Another exciting thing about Lori is when she left Canal in 1998 to go to Texas with her husband, I took Lori's job. This is my first ever industry job. Exciting. So 1998 is when I finally stepped into the industry. And in 1998, believe it or not, I sat in the audience just like you guys are right now. And I was vigorously taking notes. I know you guys are out there typing now and got all your stuff plugged in, but I was taking notes. And again, I wrote down anything and everything that I could. Now, these are not my notes, because when I was at Canal Forest Resources, I met my business partner, Russell Combs. And of course, these are his notes. Him and I both came to this conference. And believe it or not, Russ had his notes. And I saw Joe laugh there because Joe works with Russ every day. And he's exactly right. This gentleman, I don't have my notes from last week's meetings. I'm not going to lie to you guys. We had talked last week. I already threw your notes away. I'm not going to lie. But Russ still had his notes. And there it is in 1998. And so I looked at him and I was like, you have your notes? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I got to have them. This is better than Pete's picture. If I had long hair, Pete would be better. But this is better than Pete's picture. Can I have these notes? And so, of course, he gave me his notes. And I scanned them in. And, of course, you can see automatically what was happening. People were talking about color infrared. Excuse me, I haven't said that in many years, guys. Color infrared photography. We're talking about annual photography program. We're talking about NAPE. We're talking about LIDAR, and Russ even spelled it wrong for us. And of course, Dave Evans from Mississippi State is talking about inventory and LIDAR data. And I was like, this is just, it's just unbelievable that he even has these notes. But number two, look at all what's in it. And then look who's the people that were there. That was the part that I thought was exciting. So if you look who was there, we had Meade was there, Rayonier was there, Westvaco was there, Union Camp, Temple Inland, International people. Who remembers those guys? Let's put you old people should be raising your hands. Come on, don't get tired on me now. We're just starting out here. So again, it was unbelievable who was there. Again, and don't forget, I was there too. And boy, I was talking to everybody. I had more hair at that time. I was running around, shaking hands, kissing babies, whatever I had to do to meet all these people. So exciting for sure. And to go a little bit further, for the next many years, we continued to come to and participate in the SO4 conference. And every year we came, the topics changed, the people changed, and the companies changed, and the asset that we managed changed. And of course, in 2004, we came in 2004 and presented in 2004. Russ spoke about information systems, and I actually spoke about cadastral forestry, which I thought was exciting because cadastral forestry was the basis for one of our most popular services in the industry today called LIDAS. And the cadastral forestry was the concept of we could just be digitizing stuff off photographies all day long. The photography was accurate, but it could be better than that. And then we had to be looking at it from a land record standpoint. We had to be digitizing legal descriptions. We had to be getting good information, tying our data down to the ground, not just hoping that the photography was right and digitizing our photography. Start digitizing our stand lines off of that. So again, interesting, when you start looking backwards, you quickly realize how old you really are. You know that. So, and then in 2006, and I really like this because in 2005, 2004, we started putting data on the internet. We were trying to get out there with Esri's, some of the Esri's new softwares, IMS and ArcIMS and other softwares. But then in 2006, I talked about Google API, about the fact that Google had an API out there and you could use it for free and you could serve your data out there. Really interesting. So again, showing that, hey, as an industry, we're getting our information out there, trying to push it out to everybody else and using technology the best that we can. And of course, whoops, excuse me. Then of course, in 2011, this is another good one. Another good one here for sure. Number 2011, we came, and of course, Esri finally had their Arc server stuff out and all that great stuff. But also, up on that screen up there, of course, at the very, very top, Russell Combs and Elizabeth Martinez did a presentation together. Now, I asked Russ, he had his notes from 2008, does he remember this presentation? And he, of course, said no, he did not. Elizabeth, do you remember this presentation? No. That's okay. That's all right. So Elizabeth, of course, is going to talk after me this morning, and she's going to talk about navigating the GIS solutions and the maze. And I didn't memorize your thing, but you understand. So, but back in 2011, here again are industry leaders talking about getting our information, mobile access information, out to the public, out to our investors, out to our clients. So, this conference shows that over the past, 2 decades, our asset class has changed. Just like the topics to this conference, our asset class has been changing. And the asset class has changed dramatically because of the adaptation to, and arguably because of technology. So I know you're asking yourself right now, Clarence, well, how has the asset class changed? But then how has the asset changed because of technology? Well, first I want to talk about, at the beginning of the conference, of course, the assets were the trees themselves. The investors came to our industry for the trees. That's why they came. It was a primary source of income. It was the primary source of the investment. But as we started to better manage our information and get our information under control, of course, then we were allowed to bring in secondary income. So now that our information's in information systems, those guys are taking data, getting it under control. Now all of a sudden, things that brought in money years ago, we had some pine straw leases, sure. We had some recreational leases, sure. But with technology and information management now, we're bringing in millions a year on secondary income or non-timber income. That's what I say. And not only that, if you go a little bit further and say, hey, well, technology-wise, with delineating stands, we started cutting out non-timber productive areas. Let's cut this off. We want to keep our trees is all we want. Hey, let's cut this off, okay? And with endangered species and with environmental concerns, we started delineating our properties apart. And with that delineation, of course, that then allowed us again now to start addressing environmental concerns. And then again, further expanding our asset class. Because now all of a sudden, now we're not just selling the trees anymore. Now we have wetlands banking. Let's take wetland banking for an example. We now have wetlands banking. We've divided our lands out. Now we have wetlands banking. So again, and with that division or expansion of the asset class, that then caused new groups and new capital to come to our market. That then allowed the Nature Conservancy. That then allowed the Conservation Fund or the Conservation Resources groups to appear. And then these guys took that information to different types of investors, and they said, hey, we can give you a return on your investment, but it's a different type of return. And again, it expanded our asset class. Of course, then came carbon. And this is the beast. You guys already know that. I'll say that. You know that. And with carbon, of course, carbon then completely changed the asset class. So not only was now we talking about the trees and not just being primary lumber production, but now we were talking about trees and we were talking about preserving the trees for the carbon. So or preserving the growth for the carbon. So now all of a sudden, everybody in the industry had a thought, started thinking differently. And moreover, because of technology, we are now able to quantify carbon and be able to store information at higher levels that were necessary to report on carbon. Now, as we sit here today and we talk, my last kind of example here is going to be about the fact that what's next? What's our future expansion? What's going to cause us to now expand even further as an asset class? Well, you've all been hearing about it all year long, nonstop. I've been in 100 meetings of this stuff. And of course, if you guys participated in Orbis's campfire session in September about ESGs, you would know that ESGs stand for environmental, social, and governance. So we have to sit here now and ask ourselves the question, is this the next thing that's going to expand our asset class? Is this going to expand our asset class even further than what it currently is? Now, the answer to the question, I asked the question, but I'll go ahead and answer it for you guys. I don't mind. Because of technology, and I believe because of technology that we have today, the answer is yes. It's going to expand our asset class. And the reason for that, let's just take a simple ERP, an enterprise resource planning system. A lot of clients already have them in place already, currently. So a simple ERP which currently stores your financial management information. It currently stores your resource information, your social marketing information already stored in these ERPs. Of course, now all of a sudden, now we have an ERP system, and we could track what we're doing from a social standpoint. We can track our environmental stuff in a system, a complete system. And then we're able now to then release that information or report on that information out to new investors and bring in additional capital into our industry. All right, so with this potential expansion, what we've been seeing, of course, and you guys have too, but with this potential expansion, of course, we're seeing TMOs and we're seeing REITs and we're seeing investment groups change their branding strategies. So, of course, this up here on the screen here, this is conservation forestry and conservation farming becoming conservation resources. Now, this happened a couple of years ago. This wasn't last night by any means. Paul Young and those guys are really smart guys, and they changed their name a little while ago. But the reality of the situation is this is also occurring right now as we speak. There are several companies that are going to be coming out that are going to change their branding and their strategy to capitalize on this new expansion of our market into ESGs. It's going to happen. And not only that, ESGs are going to add additional groups to our industry. So let's take an example, Blue Source. So Blue Source, of course, has been around for many, many years. You guys know that. They've been helping with many clients with a lot of carbon management, helping them get their carbon sold on the free trade market, all that fun stuff. But of course, I think most of you probably read the announcement a little while back when Roger's team came out and they said, hey, that they've got, I can't remember what it is, 400 billion, whatever they got, assets of money they got to buy land with. So now all of a sudden, this is now a new group coming into our industry. They're already here, but now they're going to be a new group coming into our industry that's going to buy land and manage it with different objectives of ESG or objectives of impact investing. So again, we're seeing an impact really quickly. So all of these changes we've had for the last, couple decades, we've seen everything from secondary income coming in to environmental concerns to carbon to everything else. You guys know that. A lot of stuff coming in. And then, of course, today, things are still going to change. We still have the world economy. We still have tax laws as the administration changes over. We still have climate change, which is the new buzzword. So, again, coming in. But through all of these changes, technology has always been there. And technology is the major reason we've been able to change our asset class. And raise the reason why our asset class has changed. So now, when we talk about technology, what does everybody think about? artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things, blockchain technology, one of my favorites. Alrighty, and then of course, I even heard an article the other day about Microsoft's going to start storing memory on DNA. So, I mean, it's out of control. You guys know that. So, technology is all these things, and it's not stopping. And of course, but technology is also, of course, everything I said there, but it's also still your email, and it's still your Word documents. It's still all those things that we take for granted. Again, when Lori's up here with a PowerPoint, when she had her overhead projector, and now I'm streaming live across the internet. Again, that's still technology. Now, that being said, any industry now, so let's forget about our industry for a second here. Industry, any industry, the adaptation and the change of technology in that industry is what allows the trajectory of that industry to continue to go up. It's the number one thing. And as an example of this, let's think about drones for a second. So drones, if we had a smaller battery that lasted longer and allowed us to fly it longer, then drones, instead of collecting 100 acres, could collect 1,000 acres or could collect 10,000 acres. And the trajectory of drone use in our industry would go up and would help our industry trajectory go up. So again, it's technology that drives an industry. Now, not only is it industries, but technology is what determines what companies will succeed. Period. So I put 3 examples up here on the screen. I thought they'd be fun to talk about. So Netflix. Anybody know what Netflix originally was? Anybody? Come on, some of you old guys ought to know this. I had a subscription. Go, Tucker. Yeah. Oh my God, my man Tucker. So yes, Tucker. Yes, that's correct. DVDs in the mail. Had 41 million subscribers, and they would mail you DVDs in the mail. So you paid $3. I can't remember what the description was, and then you could request a DVD, and they'd mail it to you. You could watch the DVD, and then of course mail it back. But of course, they got them to the bandwagon of like, well, hey, data storage. Why do I need to mail the DVD if I can put it on memory here? And then with internet coming out and streaming it out, they got into the streaming technologies. Of course, Netflix now is one of the largest, data providers or streamers of entertainment in the world. Again, a company looked at technology, implemented technology, and went forward. Amazon, of course, is an easy one. Amazon, of course, sold used books on the internet. And I actually bought a book on Amazon used when I was in college. So today, they are the gold standard for e-commerce. If you want to do any kind of e-commerce on the internet, you've got to be like Amazon. If not, the public will crush you. They expect Amazon. And then at the very end, they're progressive. Progressive because insurance companies, of course, all the insurance industry uses technology, but progressive started to track everybody. I can't remember what it's called, but they put the little gadget in your car, tracks you. And they've got something like 14 million or 14 billion miles of driven roads, something ridiculous. And it's all about tracking people, their customers, understanding what their customers are doing, and understanding risk and how to, they're going to kick Clarence off because he drives too fast, something like that. So unbelievable. But again, technology is what has allowed these companies to move forward. So what does that mean for you in the audience? Why do we care that technology has changed this conference since the beginning of time? Why do we care that technology has changed the people who stood up here and talked? Or why should we worry about what's happening? Well, because technology is what's going to drive our industry forward. Today, you guys already know this. I'm sure half of y'all are playing on your phone. Today, everybody expects to have their information at their fingertips. And they expect to have that information at their fingertips within minutes. And it's our responsibility in this room this morning today, as we talk, to figure out how next technology or how technology can be adapted to our industry and change our industry. And up next, of course, is Elizabeth again. She gets to be famous twice today. Elizabeth's going to talk about navigating the maze of GIS tools and solutions. And of course, after she gets through speaking, there's going to be some other gentlemen and ladies up here that are going to talk today, and students up here that are going to talk today. Are going to talk about technology, and they're going to talk about, and it's our job to listen about this and try to figure out from that what makes sense to us, what makes sense to our organization, and how can we change our industry. Of course, your job, again, in the audience, is to understand, again, what everybody talks about today. Try to listen and learn, and try to figure out, hey, how can I apply this to me, or how can I apply this to us? And how can I move us forward in our industry? And then how to, and this is important, how to use technology to bring more investors to our industry. How do I use technology to figure out what we're going to do next as an industry? I think important, it's still the same land. It's still the same square. It's still the same polygon. We just need to use technology to determine another income stream from that same land. So if you don't believe technology is going to change our industry again real soon, look at the automotive industry. And look at the amount of technology that's gone into automotive industry in the last 2 decades. When I was a kid, and this is my favorite part, I could actually fix a car. Or actually, I had to fix my own car. How's that sound? In other words, if a spark plug went bad, or the distributor cap, or had to call a buddy for the timing because I couldn't do that. But you had to fix your own car. And not only did you have to fix your own car because you could, but because there wasn't very many automotive shops around. Alrighty? But as technology increased in going forward, cheating. But as technology increases and going forward, when I was in college, we had fuel injection, and now we had motherboards and all kinds of fun stuff in our car. I had to find somebody to fix my car. And not only that, I had to find somebody I trusted. So there's a lot of local shops now, and I had to go find a local shop, and I had to find these people, and I had to fix my car. I had to trust those people with the technology in my car because I couldn't fix it anymore myself. And of course, today, arguably, I'm not even sure this is a car anymore, but that's not the point. But today, arguably, motors have changed so much. There's so much technology in the car, you couldn't fix your car if you had to. In fact, you are required today to take your car to a certified dealer. And if you don't, it's like doing surgery in the alley. That's the reality. All righty? So, if you haven't already, you need to find a technology partner or partners, and someone who can help you navigate the technology that's coming out and navigate through, hey, what's next? What can help my company out? What can help our industry out? What can we do next to help our asset class grow and expand even further than we've already expanded? And I'll end on this, and that is the fact that the technology train is not stopping. The technology you have in place today is already obsolete. So it's our job to get on the technology train, find our seat, of course, and figure out what to do in our industry to help us grow and prosper. Thank you.